Everyone loves Thailand, the land of smiles. The paradise of beaches, temples, and street food so divine it feels like therapy for the soul. But what if I told you that paradise is cracking? That behind every smile, a silent crisis is growing, one that nobody wants to talk about. This is the Thailand tourism crisis, what nobody wants to admit in 2025. Just a few years ago, Thailand's tourism industry was unstoppable. Over 40 million visitors arrived every year. Bangkok was crowned the most visited city in the world again and again. Phuket and Pattaya were overflowing with luxury resorts, while Chiang Mai became the global capital for digital nomads chasing freedom and Wi-Fi. But today, something feels different. The smiles are still there, but the warmth behind them. Isn't Thailand's tourism dream was built on an illusion of perfection. A place where everything was cheap, safe, and welcoming. But behind the glowing lights of Khao San Road, the endless massages, and the postcard beaches, a darker story has been unfolding. When the pandemic hit, Thailand's tourism economy shattered. Millions lost their jobs overnight. Entire islands went silent. Hotels closed, restaurants vanished, and the tuk-tuk drivers who once chased tourists for rides now stood in empty streets, waiting for a future that didn't arrive. And when the world reopened, Thailand changed. The smiles remained, but the trust began to fade. When travelers returned in 2023 and 2024, they found a country that looked the same, but felt completely different. Scams had evolved, prices had skyrocketed, and the very people who once depended on tourism were now desperate to survive. That desperation created a new ecosystem, one where survival mattered more than hospitality. Thailand still promotes itself as the land of smiles, but talk to any long-term traveler and you'll hear the same whispers. Thailand doesn't feel the same anymore. I was scammed in Bangkok. Locals are frustrated, tourists are angry, and trust is broken. These aren't random complaints. They're symptoms of a deeper shift, one that few dare to admit publicly. Because admitting it would mean acknowledging that Thailand's tourism dream has turned into a survival game. Walk the streets of Bangkok today, and you can feel it. You land at the airport, excited for your dream vacation. A man in uniform approaches you with a friendly smile and offers a special taxi deal. He looks official, speaks English confidently. Within minutes, your taxi meter is off, the fare triples, and you realize the scam started the moment you stepped out of the airport. Every country has scams, but in 2025, Thailand's scams have become strategic. From fake police officers demanding bribes to digital scams targeting remote workers, from inflated taxi fares to rental traps, the list keeps growing. Even locals quietly admit, this isn't the Thailand we knew. What's happening isn't just about money, it's about trust. For decades, Thailand's success depended on a simple formula. Tourists trusted locals and locals treated tourists like family. But now that invisible bond has been broken. When travelers stop trusting locals and locals stop believing in fair play, the entire foundation begins to crumble. On the surface, Thailand looks like it's recovering. The government proudly announces that tourism is back. Beaches are busy again. Hotels are reopening. And social media is flooded with influencers promoting the new Thailand. But speak to small business owners in Krabi, Chiang Mai or Pattaya, and they'll tell you the truth. Tourism is back, but the soul is missing. People are visiting, but they don't stay as long. They spend less. They smile less. The connection that once made Thailand magical has started to fade. Thailand was once defined by Sanuk, the Thai belief that life should always be fun, enjoyable, and full of joy. That spirit made people fall in love with the country. But when life becomes about survival, Sanuk disappears. When every tourist becomes a transaction, the magic dies. The root of this crisis lies in Thailand's economic dependence on tourism. 1 out of every 5 jobs in the country depends on foreign visitors. That means when global events shift, pandemics, wars, recessions, or simply changing travel trends, millions of Thai citizens are directly affected. In 2025, inflation is rising, the cost of living is climbing, and wages have barely improved. Foreign investment is slowing down. Locals are struggling to keep up. For many, tourism isn't a choice anymore. It's a fight to survive. That's why so many turn to quick money. Taxi drivers charging triple, vendors inflating prices, fake tour guides inventing stories, Small acts of desperation multiplied into a nationwide pattern. Not because people are bad, but because the system gives them no other option. When survival becomes the only goal, ethics fade. When the economy depends on tourists' pockets, honesty becomes a luxury few can afford. The government continues to promote Thailand as the dream destination of Southeast Asia. But behind the glossy ads and influencer collaborations, a question grows louder. How long can a nation live off a reputation that's slowly collapsing? Thailand's tourism industry has become like a mirage, beautiful from afar, fragile up close. It still attracts millions, but the experience isn't the same. Travelers are more cautious, locals more defensive, and both sides more exhausted. The trust that once made Thailand special, that sense of genuine kindness, of being truly welcomed, is vanishing. And this is the part no one wants to talk about. Not the tourism boards, not the influencers making sponsored videos, not even the visitors who witness it firsthand. Because the truth hurts. Admitting it means facing the reality that paradise has changed. Thailand's tourism crisis isn't just about scams or rising prices. It's about identity, about a country struggling to hold on to what made it unique while trying to survive in a world that keeps changing. The smiles are still there, but they're tired smiles. The beaches are still beautiful, but the stories behind them are heavier. And somewhere beneath the palm trees and neon lights, Thailand is quietly fighting to find its soul again. In the next part, we'll uncover what really caused this shift, the networks behind modern scams, the foreign investments shaping the industry, and how Thailand's silent economy is now being controlled by forces far beyond tourism. Because this crisis isn't just about tourists losing money, it's about a nation losing its balance. When the smiles fade, what's left behind? Every crisis has two sides, what the world sees and what lies hidden underneath. When people talk about Thailand's tourism crisis, they mention scams, prices, and lost trust. But that's only the surface. The real story runs much deeper. It's about control, influence, and money. In 2025, Thailand's tourism is no longer just about locals and visitors. It has become a battlefield of corporations, foreign investors, and silent power brokers competing for control over the country's most profitable industry. Behind every luxury resort, every beachfront restaurant, and every local experience, there are invisible hands pulling the strings, shaping the country's image, its economy, and even its laws. For decades, tourism was Thailand's pride, a national success story built on authenticity, culture, and kindness. But as profits grew, so did competition. Slowly, international investors began to take over hotels, transportation networks, and digital platforms that once belonged to Thai owners. Today, if you book a hotel in Phuket or Samui, there's a high chance the profits don't even stay in Thailand. The resort may look Thai, the staff may be Thai, but the ownership, registered in Singapore, Hong Kong, or Dubai, this is the quiet takeover that few people notice. Tourism has turned into an export industry, not of products, but of experiences. And the profits, more often than not, leave the country the moment a tourist checks out. The illusion of growth hides the truth. Thailand's tourism revenue in 2025 looks strong on paper, billions of dollars flowing in. But the question is, who actually keeps that money? Small family businesses, the soul of Thailand's tourism, are being squeezed out. Street vendors are being replaced by global franchises. Local guest houses are being shut down by zoning laws that favor international hotel chains. Even the digital side of tourism, from online bookings to reviews and influencer marketing, is controlled by foreign platforms. Thailand's stories are now told by algorithms and outsiders. And while tourists may not see it, locals feel it deeply. Their culture, once celebrated, is now being packaged and sold like a product. Their traditions are performed for photos, not for pride. Their towns are being redesigned to fit an image the investors want to sell. What happens when a country loses ownership of its own identity? It begins to depend entirely on the outside world, for validation, for money, for survival. That's what's happening now. Thailand's economy depends on global tourism more than ever, yet its control over that very system is fading. That's why the scams, frustration, and distrust we see on the surface aren't random. They're symptoms of a deeper imbalance. When big players control profits, the small players, the taxi drivers, vendors, guides, and families are left with crumbs. They're the ones who face tourists daily, and they're the ones blamed when things go wrong. But behind them stands a structure designed to favor the top. There's also the digital side, the new face of tourism in 2025. Thailand once relied on traditional travelers, backpackers, honeymooners, families. Now a new kind of visitor dominates, the digital nomad. They come to work remotely, stay for months, and spend money online. At first, this looked like a blessing. Nomads brought stable income after the pandemic. But over time, it became complicated. Prices for housing skyrocketed, cafes turned into workspaces, and local communities found themselves priced out of their own neighborhoods. In Chiang Mai, locals whisper that their city no longer belongs to them. In Koh Phangan, long-term residents complain that short-term rentals have destroyed community life. And in Bangkok, entire districts now exist solely to serve foreign remote workers, while local wages remain the same. This digital invasion isn't driven by tourists, but by digital economies, Airbnb, visa-free schemes, online agencies, all taking their cut while reshaping Thailand's social fabric. The government faces an impossible choice. On one side, it needs tourism to survive, to keep jobs, to keep investors happy, to keep the economy moving. On the other, it knows that overdependence makes the country fragile, so the official narrative stays positive. Tourism is booming again. Thailand is open for the world. Smiles are back. But behind closed doors, policymakers are worried. Because when one sector holds too much power, it can hold the entire country hostage. That's exactly what's happening. If tourism slows down, everything slows down. Construction, transport, retail, real estate, even education. The ripple effects are massive. And with global uncertainty increasing, Thailand's over-reliance on visitors is becoming a national vulnerability. This crisis also reveals a cultural dilemma. For decades, Thailand has marketed itself as a dream destination, cheap, exotic, easy, and friendly. But that image has trapped the country in its own success. To maintain it, Thailand has to keep prices low and smiles high, even when it hurts locals' livelihoods. Now, locals are pushing back. Younger generations are questioning whether the Land of Smiles label still serves them, or just serves tourists. Many are choosing to leave the tourism industry altogether, seeking stability elsewhere. The result is visible everywhere. Experience guides have vanished. Authentic family restaurants have closed. Skilled artisans have moved to other industries. What remains are newcomers chasing quick profit, and that's when quality declines and scams rise. The crisis isn't only economic, it's emotional. The pride of hospitality, the joy of welcoming guests, is fading. What used to be culture has turned into survival. There's another layer most people never see, the underground economy tied to tourism. When millions of visitors arrive each year, there's always a hidden network that grows alongside. Black markets, unlicensed taxis, fake travel agencies, counterfeit goods, and illegal rentals. In 2025, these underground systems are stronger than ever. They exist because the formal system has become too expensive for small players. Getting proper licenses, permits, and tax registrations cost money most locals don't have, so they go underground. And that's where exploitation thrives. Tourists are caught in this chaos without realizing it. They think they're getting local deals, but many of those deals fund the informal networks that keep scams alive. The system feeds itself, and the result is what the world now sees as Thailand's hospitality problem. But in truth, it's not a problem of kindness. It's a problem of structure. Amid all this, there are still millions of honest Thais trying to do the right thing, to rebuild the country's reputation, to restore trust. Small communities are rising up with ethical tourism programs, local homestays, and eco-projects that focus on fairness. They're fighting an uphill battle against the corporate and digital forces that dominate the scene. But their efforts are real, and they show one thing clearly. Thailand's heart hasn't disappeared. It's just buried under layers of economic pressure. If you talk to seasoned travelers who have been visiting Thailand for decades, they'll tell you the same thing. Thailand is still beautiful, but the feeling is gone. That feeling, the sense of genuine warmth and wonder, is what made Thailand different from anywhere else. You didn't just visit, you connected. Now, connection has been replaced by transaction. You don't talk to locals anymore, you scan QR codes. You don't discover hidden gems, you follow algorithms. You don't get lost in the culture, you scroll through curated experiences. The soul of travel has become digital, and Thailand, like much of the world, is struggling to adapt. In this new reality, the question isn't whether Thailand can survive the tourism crisis. It's whether it can redefine what tourism means. Can it find balance between growth and authenticity? Between business and humanity? Between profit and pride? Because as long as the system rewards exploitation and foreign control, the cycle will continue. Scams will evolve, prices will rise, and trust will keep fading. But if Thailand dares to change, to take back ownership of its economy, its culture, and its narrative, it can rise again, stronger and more self-reliant. The world still loves Thailand. The question is, will Thailand learn to love itself again, beyond tourism? Because no amount of marketing can fix what's broken inside. The real crisis isn't the loss of tourists, it's the loss of identity. And until that's confronted, paradise will remain just a beautiful illusion. And Thailand's story, though shaken, isn't one of defeat, it's one of awakening. For years, the country sold a dream to the world. Paradise, freedom, escape. And for years, the world bought it without question. But 2025 has exposed something deeper. Not the end of Thailand's tourism, but the end of its illusion. The illusion that happiness can be sold endlessly, the illusion that kindness can survive under pressure. The illusion that tourism alone can sustain a nation's soul. When illusions break, truth begins. The truth is that Thailand still has everything it needs. The landscapes, the spirit, the stories, but it needs something it once took for granted. Trust. Trust is the invisible bridge between a visitor and a host. It cannot be built with ads or influencers. It's built through small human moments, honesty, fairness, and respect. The real question is not how to bring tourists back. It's how to bring meaning back, because no number of arrivals will matter if the connection between people is gone. To understand the way forward, Thailand must first confront what went wrong. The system that made tourism successful also made it fragile. An economy built on outsiders is an economy without roots. When you depend on the world to feed you, you lose control of your own hunger. For years, Thailand was told that tourism equals progress. But progress without protection is exploitation. What Thailand needs now is not more tourists, it's better tourism. Tourism that values experience over volume, respect over revenue. Tourism that uplifts locals instead of replacing them. Across the country, quiet revolutions are already happening. In Chiang Mai, local women are teaching travelers how to weave traditional fabrics, not as a performance, but as a cultural exchange. In the mountains near Nan, farmers are opening eco-lodges that protect forests while supporting entire communities. In southern islands, small cooperatives are banning plastic and limiting visitor numbers to preserve coral reefs. These projects are small, almost invisible on the global stage, but they represent something huge, the rebirth of Thai tourism from within. They show that Thailand's strength doesn't lie in its marketing. It lies in its people, in the ordinary Thais who refuse to let their country become a stage for someone else's story. But this transformation won't be easy. To rebuild, Thailand will have to challenge everything that once made it famous. It must move away from cheap mass tourism and embrace sustainability. It must empower local communities to own their resources again. It must ensure that profits stay where they belong, with the people who keep the nation alive. That means new policies, fair wages, stricter regulation, and above all, education. Because change doesn't happen in government meetings. It starts in classrooms, in conversations, and in the way the next generation learns to see the world. Thailand must teach its young people that hospitality is not servitude, and that culture is not for sale. There's also a role for travelers to play. For too long, tourism has been one-sided. We take, they serve, but the future demands partnership. Travelers must learn to look beyond the photos and ask real questions. Who owns this resort? Who benefits when I spend my money here? How can I travel in a way that respects the place I visit? Conscious tourism isn't about guilt. It's about gratitude. It's about realizing that travel is not a right, it's a privilege. When travelers start to value authenticity over convenience, exploitation loses its power. Thailand stands at a crossroads. One road leads back to the illusion, to mass tourism, fast money, and fading trust. The other leads forward, to a slower, fairer, more genuine connection between visitors and hosts. The first road looks easier. It's what the world expects. But the second road is where Thailand will find itself again, and that choice will decide whether this crisis becomes a collapse or a rebirth. If you listen closely, you can already feel the shift. In the markets of Bangkok, young entrepreneurs are refusing to scam. They're building honest brands rooted in pride. In the temples of Ayutthaya, monks speak to visitors about mindfulness, not tourism. On the beaches of Krabi, volunteers are planting mangroves instead of selling tickets. Small acts of restoration, multiplied across a nation, can rewrite its future. Because what Thailand needs most isn't more tourists, it's more truth. Tourism has always been about discovery. But perhaps it's time for Thailand to discover itself. To remember that its power never came from cheap prices or exotic images. It came from warmth, the humankind, that no amount of money can imitate. It came from simplicity, from kindness that expected nothing in return. Those qualities are still there, buried beneath fatigue and frustration. They just need a chance to breathe again. The world is watching Thailand, but not for the reasons it once did. People are no longer asking, "Where can I go for the cheapest beach?" They're asking, "Where can I go to feel something real?" And that's where Thailand still has a chance to lead. If it can embrace transparency, fairness, and authenticity, it can become a model for sustainable tourism in Asia, maybe even the world. But if it continues down the same path of exploitation and overdependence, the crisis will only deepen. The land of smiles cannot survive if the smiles are forced. So what's the future? Maybe it's smaller guest houses instead of mega resorts. Maybe it's longer stays, fewer flights, more purpose. Maybe it's local ownership instead of global control. Maybe it's travelers who come not to consume, but to connect. Maybe the future of Thailand isn't about being the most visited country. Maybe it's about being the most valued one. Because in the end, beauty means nothing without dignity. Thailand's tourism crisis is real, but so is its potential. It's a story of mistakes, yes, but also of lessons learned. A country that has touched the hearts of millions now stands at the edge of transformation. And like every great transformation, it begins with a simple truth. When you stop pretending, you start healing. The smiles can return, real ones this time, but only when trust returns first, only when Thailand stops selling paradise and starts rebuilding it from within. Because paradise was never in the beaches or the temples, it was always in the people, and that's something no crisis can ever take away.